Should the Arizona Cardinals entertain drafting a wide receiver at 16? I mean, no, but maybe, but no. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So anything that comes up, whether it be mock draft or discussions, national, whatever it is, it's a discussion that can be had here too, as pertaining to the Cardinals. We're not having, this isn't like a baking show or something like that. I mean, no offense to baking shows. I'm friends who are bakers and I reap the rewards more than I should. But when it comes to the Cardinals and you see a mock draft that has the Cardinals taking Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas at 16, it's just a discussion to, give the brain a workout. Because I find that it's a fool's errand not to talk about every potential option. And I would be doing a disservice to you if we didn't talk about it. And that's the last thing that I want to do. That's the last thing. That's the last place I want to be. So it's got to be discussed. Okay. There needs to be an offensive shift in 2025. I've kind of peppered this in over the last few weeks. I'd like to do a full segment on it. And then, as we go into the weekend, let's discuss at 16, defensive tackle or edge. If it's not offensive line, if it's not wide receiver, if it's not, corner or something like that, which would most benefit the Cardinals the quickest with the roster is currently constructed, defensive tackle or edge. It's going to be fun. And then I'm going to preface what guest week looks like next week. We've got a hell of a lineup. It's going to be awesome. So wide receiver at 16. Absolutely not. And seen. But what would the upside be for drafting a wide receiver? And this part, say the Cardinals were to, and I know it's kind of an asinine stance to take, but we've seen crazier things happen, okay? And if the Cardinals end up trading back and they get a second-round pick and they think maybe taking but drafting a wide receiver in the low 20s may benefit this team, especially if you have then 3 picks in the second and third round, it's a different conversation. But say at 16, the upside of drafting a wide receiver is then you ask the question, who do you stop if you're on the defensive side scheming for the Cardinals? Who do you stop? You stop Trey McBride, cool. Then they've got really fast, really young wide receivers on the outside. Okay, cool. So that's not going to work. You stop the run game. You stack the Bucks. Awesome. That's a terrible mistake. Oh, you stop Marvin and whatever wide receiver they drafted 16, coupled with Michael Wilson and everybody else. Oh, cool. Trey McBride, the all-pro tight end, is going to eat your lunch and your dinner. So the benefit of drafting a wide receiver at 16 is like, oh, this is just banana sandwich at this point. It's silly season for the talent that the Cardinals have on the offensive side of the ball. And what it really will do as a byproduct. I'm not going to discuss that they should move off from Kyler Murray thing. I'm not going to do it yet. When it's important to do so, I will discuss it. If you're going to find out, just like if you drafted a wide receiver, or just if you drafted an offensive lineman, you're going to find out Kyler Murray in a vacuum, how great he can be with what's said to be the best offense that he's been around since being drafted in 2019. And I mean, on top of that, really, it would be like super fun. It'd be super fun. Like, let's be honest. It would be awesome to have another young wide receiver, especially like this is the draft process in and of itself is just irrational in so many instances. I mean, that's not taking away from all the hard work that people do, because it is like, they're like encyclopedias. It is insane how much knowledge people can fit in their brains as pertaining to all the prospects who will be drafted, in the first few rounds, things like that. And then all the way through, like people do full mock draft. Like it's crazy to me. With how things are going with the wide receiver, contracts and things like that. I mean, if you were to draft a wide receiver, you have 4 years, it would be 5 years with the 5th-year option of contractual control with guys who are making pennies on the dollar if they pop. So I get that. Now, with all that said, I do still think it would be ridiculous to draft a wide receiver at 16. Now, if we're talking next year, yeah, you could be hard, fast targeting wide receiver at 16. I think they're a year away from that. This is still, roster construction is still not complete. It is on track to be complete. And through this draft, maybe they'll add a piece or two, free agency between now and, retain Will Hernandez or whatever it may be because you're white. This roster is a year away. They have glaring needs elsewhere that are much more important right now to the overall construction of the roster, much more than wide receiver, even though it would be, again, so damn fun to have a running mate with Marvin Harrison Jr. You can wait till next year. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. There needs to be an offensive shift, irrespective of if they draft a wide receiver or not in the first couple of rounds. I'll discuss what that is in a more concise manner than I have been. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the net. You want to take a chance and see who is going to win? Is it going to be Duke? Is Alabama going to beat them this weekend? Is a 2 seed going to sneak in? Is Florida going to be able to run the table? Like you can take advantage of it all over at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. Leave a review if you so desire. I'm just happy that you're here. Guest week next week, I'll be tweeting out the list. I'll be pinning it to the channel. I'll be going on vacation for a week. I don't remember the last time I took a vacation away from everything, maybe over a decade. So yeah, much needed, but you have no fear. You have 5 incredible guests that will be joining me Monday through Friday of next week. And it's going to be awesome. An offensive shift that must be made in 2025. They got to throw the ball more. And with the pivot back to, running backs matter still. You need 2 running backs. You need to run the ball. Yeah. It's like, it's seemingly, which will never happen now, the reverting back to the big guy in the NBA. It's like run the ball and play defense. That's how you win. Philly did it really well. They have the best offensive line that we've seen in a long time. They have one of the best running backs in the league, and presto changeo, you're winning a Super Bowl. With that said, the Cardinals being one-dimensional or more one-dimensional than they should be shouldn't happen anymore. And this is what the evolution of Drew Petzing's play calling is going to have to look like in 2025, because you want to be doing things that winning teams do with a tweak to kind of stay ahead of the curve. And now, like everything, it seems, not in society, like in sports, it's like everything's just a massive overcorrection. This isn't working. Let's try the polar opposite of that. Well, everybody's onto that. Let's try the polar opposite of that. No. You got to live in the gray. You got to live not all the way what people are doing. I'll tell you what, running backs, especially in this draft, there's going to be a lot more, let's run the ball on first and second down next year. Like the pass happy stuff. Remember when we experienced 5,000-yard passers every year? It's like, is somebody going to throw for 6,000? People don't throw for 5,000 yards anymore with one extra game. So when you're looking at this and you're looking at Kyler Murray and you're looking at the bad win-loss and you're looking at the bad runs at the end of pretty much every season, and you're looking at James Conner's usage, which will be James Conner plus Trey Benson's usage in 2025, it's like, Is there another way to do this? Yeah. Get the ball in your best player's hands more. And I don't want that to be running the ball either. Like if Kyler Murray doesn't have to run the ball for this offense to work, that's the goal. And then you can just kind of, fold in the RPO where everybody's looking this way and they go that way. It's happened. Drew Petzing has done that since coming over. There's like 10 plays in the last, 12, 15 plays, something like that since he's come over where it's like, oh my goodness, that's what you call the perfect play call. One with Josh Dobbs, I think it was when he ran over Xavier McKinney against the Giants a couple years ago. You had the 49ers won last year with Kyler. You had the Chargers won, but Kyler just pretty much hit the edge and was gone. It was more of a broken play. I want Kyler to throw the ball more. The fact that he's only throwing the ball like 25 times a game, it's ridiculous. He should be throwing the ball 30 times a game, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be deep balls down the sideline. It doesn't have to be 50-50 balls. It doesn't have to be even intermediate. They need to pepper in more looks that keep opposing defenses guessing. The Cardinals have the skill position players to do it. You just need Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you have two capable pass-catching backs in Trey Benson and James Conner. It's like you've got plenty. Use them more. You've got Greg Dortch. You've got Michael Wilson. And if they want to bring in a guy or draft a college guy, fine. But I don't think Kyler Murray throwing the ball 22 times a game is how you win. He's got great touch on his ball. He's got great placement. Use it more. You can still be a run first and be much more of a 50-50 kind of thing. Like, I think that the Cardinals are holding themselves back by running the ball so much and in the ways that they're doing it. And listen, I was the one when Drew Petzing came on, I'm like, awesome. Cleveland, great, run first. And it can still be that. And it should still be that. But there should be no world that when the run game isn't working, the pass game can't keep up. And I think getting in a rhythm with both early would yield better dividends than just running the ball and be like, oh, that's not working. Now let's shift to throwing the ball. They've got weapons. Use them. Like the Seattle game was really telling coming out of the bye week. And we've discussed this, but one of the worst run defenses in football through the first 2.5 months. And then they come in and completely shut down James Conner because that was the game plan. Shut down James Conner. Shut down the run game. And the Cardinals weren't able to do anything. I think that even though it seems kind of silly, quarterbacks getting into a rhythm is important also. I'd much rather see more passes on the opening two drives, first half of games than what we've experienced really with this team over the last couple seasons. You can run the ball by passing also. In so many words, screen passes, bubble screens, wide receiver screens, slants, things like that. You can do that instead of turning around and handing the ball to a running back. Tom Brady made a living off of it. James White made a living off of it. I'm not comparing them. It can be done. And the Cardinals have the skill position players to do it everywhere. So I think that's kind of the missing piece from this offense, because what we've seen, with Kyler and Drew Petzing is top 5 offense, bottom 5 offense. It's never really in between. It's just like, where the hell has that been? And why the hell is this here? And sure, there's one-offs of that, but that's glaringly what it seems like. And you got to figure out how to take that floor of a bad drive to top 20 and not bottom 5. Not every drive is going to be great. You're going to play against good defenses. They're like, mistakes are going to, you're not expecting to score every drive, but it's like the floor has to be raised. And I think the floor can be raised more quickly and efficiently if Kyler Murray's throwing the ball more, if he's got the ball in his hands more, if he has more touches, like as if he were a running back. It's like, yeah, you want to get Saquon Barkley 25 touches a game, whether that's 20 rushes and 5 receptions or 17 and 8 or whatever it is, you do it. With Kyler Murray, I want him throwing the ball at least 25 times a game, 30. Throw the ball. He doesn't have to average over 10 yards a completion. but the 16 for 22 for 180 yards, it's like, what is that doing? That's the true definition of having a Lamborghini and putting it in first gear. The dude's wildly electric. Let him just play football. And it can be both. You can be a run-first team, and that can also happen. And I just want to see it in 2025. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. If you got to pick one, defensive tackle or pass rusher at 16, what's the right choice? Discuss it next. Offensive line, is that an answer here? It's not. It's not. Defensive tackle or pass rush? Which would be more impactful for the Cardinals? Let's say both rookies play at a B grade. If we're pass rusher, edge rusher, okay? Which would impact the Cardinals more? Let's break it down. Darius Robinson, Dalvin Tomlinson, rookie X. Dante Stills, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, rotational pieces. Is that enough to make the interior of the defensive line something to be feared enough to be schemed around? Pass rush. Josh Sweat, Bija Ojulari, Baron Browning, Zaven Collins, and then if they want to line Darius Robinson up on the outside like they can, rookie X. Would that group be enough to need to be schemed around? Because that's the name of all of this. How can you keep opposing offenses off their rocker, off their metronome, off their pendulum swing, off their, easy street? If it's between the two, and I talked about this with offensive line also, like this was my main focus as to why I say go O-line at 16, is because I don't think the defensive line is one player away from being top 12. So why not draft an offensive lineman and make that offensive line top 12? It's the same kind of thing with defensive tackle and pass rush, but I don't know if adding a piece to either, and this isn't my way of going back to offensive line, like I'm talking this through with you. I don't know if one player makes either group a top 12 or top 13 group. If there were to be one, I would say edge. If there were to be that 0-1 jump from okay, the Cardinals had little to no semblance of a pass rush last year, and then this year it's like, oh, baby doll, look at what's happening now. I think the better chance would be pass rush. You have more power in numbers on the interior, sure, because you've got 6 dudes if you were to draft a guy who could just be rotational, be ready to rock, and Dalvin Tomlinson with his run stuffing and Darius Robinson with his strength to be able to bull rush, more power in numbers. But I'm taking Josh Sweat, 75% of what you hope Bija Ojulari is supposed to be, Baron Browning, and a rookie. That's what I'm picking, with Nick Rallis calling the shots. And it's close. And if they took defensive tackle, fine. The Cardinals can do no wrong at 16 unless it's quarterback or running back or safety, probably. They can do no wrong. They need it all. You want to solidify an already strong team. And in the comments, you don't think the cornerback room was a strength last year? What are we watching? What are we watching here, guys and gals? I don't know what to do sometimes. But between defensive tackle and edge, I think the Cardinals are closer to being a very good pass rushing room more than being a very good interior defensive line room. And they also, another reason why edge would probably be the choice for me is because it makes the interior defensive line's job easier if you have to double team a pass rusher on the outside. Everything is simpatico, man. Everything works in cohesion on the offensive line and defensive line, but at least front seven and defense can move around before the snap. I think it opens up more possibilities for the Cardinals front to be exponentially better than it was last year if you draft an edge. And then, of course, the opposite side of that as well. If you draft a top 3, which it would most likely be top 2 or top 3 defensive tackle in this draft at 16, it makes the edge rusher's job easier because then, in the A and B gap, they have to collapse and protect the quarterback from the pocket getting blown up in the front, and it makes it easier for the guys to fly on the outside. I'd rather have pass rushers fly that would yield Darius Robinson and Dalvin Tomlinson to get through as opposed to the alternative. Plus, kind of baked in looking 100 games down the road, pass rushers make a lot of money, man. You get that inexpensive contract and a guy pops, you're in pretty good damn shape. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. That'll do it for me for this week. I'm going to tell you the list of 5. Monday, one of my favorites, Mina Kimes, is joining me. Tuesday, Marcus Mosher, Locked On Cowboys and 33rd team Pro Football Focus. He does it all. We're going to talk draft. We're going to talk Cowboys offensive line and the importance of it pretty much since their inception and how, the Cardinals can kind of mirror that. Wednesday, Tyler Drake, Arizona Sports, one of my buddies here, local beat guy. Thursday, Damian Parson, Locked On NFL Draft. He does drafts, the great stuff over Bleacher Report also. The dude is an absolute encyclopedia. If you want all the draft information about names you know and you may not know yet, check that out on Thursday. And then Friday, I got to do it as a favor. My old co-host Bo Brock's going to join me. So it'll be fun. It's going to be a fun week. I will be on vacation, but you will be in good hands. And hope you have a great weekend. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday, but me personally, I will talk to you a week from Monday when I'm back. Have a great weekend.